Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan.
I'm James.
And I'm Callum.
And it's a big week. We're reviewing Knives Out and talking about all the juicy trailers we've seen.
Lots of trailers in the last couple of weeks.
So we've got James Bond, Wonder Woman, and the new Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
The first Ghostbusters in I don't know how long.
Yeah, I know. Ghostbusters 3.
Yeah.
It's going to be epic. It's an epic week.
Yes. So I guess we should get into Knives Out first and talk all about that before we talk about all the trailers. I'm just going to drop in the Last Jedi alarm right now. Because there's no point. We're going to be bringing it up a lot.
It's contextually appropriate.
Rian Johnson actually does subvert our expectations in this movie.
It's like, it's going to come up so many times. I might as well just put the alarm at the start. And no point editing in later. Also, this episode might get political. So if you don't like it, you can get out.
Although, I think we haven't shied away from politics before on this show.
That's true, so people know.
Our audiences know that, you know...
People know.
People.
Why are we talking about politics?
There's an alt-right troll in this movie.
Of course. Oh,
And
most of the family seem a little bit...
Yeah, and the whole Last Jedi controversy was that only alt-right trolls didn't like it.
Yeah, guilty.
Yeah. Zig Heil. Okay, so if what just happened then you don't like, you can get out. But yeah, we only have a few listeners. I think they're on board now.
Look,
they know.
Well,
they heard the alarm.
Our leanings are fairly well
The
known.
alarm means many things. It doesn't just mean Star Wars and Last Jedi. It means many a thing.
It means we're going to get upset.
All right. Let's just jump right into it.
Spoiler alert.
Should we just go straight into spoilers?
We've got a lot to talk about.
This is a hard movie to talk about, really, without...
I just want to say, before spoilers, it's good and you should go see it.
It's a very good whodunit.
Regardless of your feelings towards Star Wars and Last Jedi, regardless of if you don't like whodunits, it's a fun, entertaining movie.
It's the best whodunit in a while.
It's one of the best movies of the year, possibly.
Yeah, and that's surprising coming from us who... at one point, hated Rian Johnson so much.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about that at length, but I still had faith. And I saw this movie on opening day. Like, I was like, I'm down for this. This looks good. And I think this is going to be old school Rian and not Star Wars Rian.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah, it was.
And that's why it's good.
It's really good. Recommend it.
Okay. Now we'll go full spoilers for Knives Out. Full spoilers for Last Jedi. Yeah, so if you haven't seen Knives Out, it's a whodunit murder mystery, so don't listen if you don't want to get spoiled, because we're going to talk about whodunit.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh. Should we just outline the whole plot?
Briefly. I reckon briefly, just so people know what the structure of the story, so we can kind of delve into it.
Not just like, just so as we're talking about it, we can then mention the things that we liked about that scene, or you know what I mean? Like,
I guess.
Should the structure of this episode be, let's talk about how
so...
And we can go back and forth.
Yeah, it's a convoluted... Yeah, I think that's the best way.
You know what I mean?
Convoluted.
Just because otherwise, I mean, unless you guys want to start in a specific part.
Yeah, I think we'll start with, the basic outline of the movie, because the way the movie's sort of shot, it jumps back and forward a little bit as well.
This podcast isn't produced by Scorsese, so we'll start at the start.
Yeah. It's a linear podcast.
That's right.
So basically it starts with...
It's not a Tarantino movie.
Yeah. Does it start with the murder? Or does it start with the
starts
death?
with interviews.
Yeah, it does at the house, right?
Yeah. So my first worry with this movie, when we walked in and we're sitting down watching the film, my first worry was that the whole movie was just going to be taking place. It wouldn't have been a negative thing.
Yeah.
I was worried the whole movie would take place just in the interview format that you're sort of you give it at the start.
That's been done many times before.
And I was worried it would happen again.
Yeah.
It didn't.
It's not a bad thing, but it's like it feels a bit stale at this point. But it doesn't.
Yeah. But it feels a little bit like that going in.
I think I like that, doing that at the start of the movie. You get to set up all the characters, their relationship
and
to each other.
Motivations, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, it's like who done it, because all these people had motives.
Yeah.
So
it's a good entry point, but I'm glad that it didn't stay that way for the whole of the movie's time.
Yeah.
That is a good way to start.
Yeah. So I guess to put it simply as well, you've got a murder mystery, you got this great ensemble cast. Everyone is just like on top of the game. Everyone is great. And because it's that murder mystery and it's in that old house, and it's got those, Clue vibes and
there's even a reference to Clue in the movie.
Yeah. But it's not, those movies are more like parodies or like funny. This movie's funny,
It's
but it's
serious,
also more
yeah.
of a serious whodunit. And I guess it's like Agatha Christie kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
it's very Agatha
Murder on the
Christie, yeah.
Orient Express. So it's like
Very
Poirot.
Poirot.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's like it's funny, but it's like it's not all the way a comedy or a parody, and it's not all the way deadly serious. It's got that good kind of
has a sense of humor.
Agatha Christie sense of humor.
Yeah, it's playful.
Yeah, and this is a thing. I guess we'll go on a tangent about now. Is that I really like Rian Johnson's sense of humor. I think Brick and Looper especially like have this really great subtle sense of humor with these, you know, just the little background things. And this movie has that where you just hear people say lines in the background and it's like a throwaway thing that you can miss. And just visual jokes. Like there's that bit in Looper where Bruce Willis comes back in time and confronts his younger self who's pointing the gun at him. I guess spoilers for Looper as well. And Bruce Willis like runs up and like punches him, knocks him out. It's like really intense. And then they show that scene again later from a different perspective, and the camera's all the way far back. And so they show like old Bruce Willis running towards, and it's like really slow, and it's a really funny like visual joke. And I think that encapsulates Rian Johnson's sense of humor. There's that kind of sense of humor I think happens also in Knives Out when Don Johnson's getting really mad in the office and he's like fuming and he grabs the baseball on the desk and he just throws it with all his might, and it just cuts to outside.
Yeah, and it's just like limply,
just like limply, just like bloop on the ground. It's that kind of humor.
Yeah.
Where was that in The Last Jedi? Because the humor in The Last Jedi was exclusively slapstick, fart jokes.
It was Spaceballs.
Pretty much.
Look, I have a theory that, in a sense, he had a creative breakdown around Star Wars.
I think
was it the pressure?
As we discussed on our Last Jedi review, and as we will discuss tonight, it's not that he lost his talent when he made Star Wars. It's not even maybe that the budget and the franchise overwhelmed him, even though I think that might be a part of it. I think it's straight up he thought he was being a smarty pants. He didn't care about Star Wars, and he wanted to show all the neckbeards that Star Wars isn't that important. And he's taken the piss.
You know, it's funny because that sounds like such an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But when you compare his works before and after Last Jedi, they're so good.
You leaned over to me in the cinema, like halfway through Knives Out, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but you said something like, this is...
No, 20 minutes into the movie, I leaned over to you and I said, I already really like this.
Yeah, but you also said, like, this is some, like, great Looper level shit.
Yeah.
And this is some great writing. And he's like, where was this?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm like, and I leaned over and I said, that's the point, is that he hasn't become a shit writer. He hasn't become a shit director. It's that he was taking the piss with Star Wars. Now that this isn't Star Wars anymore, he can go back to making good movies.
Like I used to joke before this movie came out and before we'd seen it, and when we saw the trailers, I'm like, I guarantee you he won't subvert shit.
Yeah.
Not in the same way he subverted himself. It's like, now that it's his property, he won't be diddling it.
All he was trying to do with The Last Jedi is subvert it and take the piss out of it and annoy fans.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, and mission accomplished. But with Knives Out, he's actually crafted a really good story with great characters, and like that's what he should have done with Star Wars, but he thought he was smarter than he actually was.
That's right.
And you know, it's a shame because he is still a really good writer and director.
Yeah, I can't shit talk him now that he's made Knives Out. It's like I feel not powerless is the wrong word. But I used to be like, oh yeah, he's the shit director who did Star Wars. He was good.
But that's the thing is like
now he's like, oh yeah, no, I know where I left it. I've still got it.
That's the thing is I'll never forgive him for Last Jedi. I always will hate him for that.
And you're always going to love the films he brings out.
Exactly. Exactly. But I will never stop loving him for Brick, Brothers Bloom, Looper, and also Knives Out.
Look, it's the same thing. We love George Lucas, but we also hate him much.
It's like when someone gives you something that's so important to you.
There's also Peter Jackson parallels. It's like
sort of,
the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So good. The Hobbit.
Well,
not so much.
Shane Black as well, which I think is a good example to compare to Rian Johnson, where he's such a great writer and his movies are so cool and interesting. And then he made that Predator movie.
What Predator movie?
And then it shit the bed. And that's why, similar to Knives Out, I want to see what Shane Black does next. Because if his next movie is really bad, I know he's just lost it. And the Predator was just part of that.
It could be like a franchise problem.
Exactly. Rian Johnson, if this movie was bad, I would know that, he wasn't taking the piss out of Last Jedi. He's gone down the toilet. Like, he's lost his talent.
Is it franchise panic with these big directors?
We've talked about this before. They get this huge budget, this huge franchise, something that's important to people, and they think they're smarter. They think they know what to do, and so they screw it up. Happens all the time, you know? Even when they're not trying to deliberately take the piss, like Rian Johnson, I think, was, they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, with a lot of these franchises, when these first movies came out, some of these directors didn't necessarily know it was going to be a franchise. They didn't know they were going to be able to make a second or a third.
That's the other thing.
You know what I mean? It's like, so a lot of these great films came out of just a filmmaker wanting to bring something out.
If you just try to make one good movie, then if it spawns a million sequels, great. But if you're trying to make a franchise movie, then you get something that feels very factory and safe.
Almost off-brand.
Alternatively, if you are going to make a movie like Star Wars, you kind of have to know where you're going with it. You can't just, like J.J. Abrams did, just go, I don't know what I'm doing, here's a nostalgia jerk. And you can't be like Rian Johnson, be like, I don't know what I'm doing, here's a nostalgic kick in the balls. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you have to kind of know, it's like, well, this is our new trilogy or this is our new franchise.
You get overwhelmed, you get in over your head a little bit.
So it's a double-edged sword. Yes, you have to make one solid good movie to spawn a good franchise, but also if you're going to spawn a franchise, you kind of have to know what you're doing with that world and that characters. Because otherwise, the second, third movie is going to come out, and like the DC universe, it's like, we can't work with this.
No,
I think the next biggest franchise we're going to have to worry about with this idea in mind really is The Matrix.
Yeah,
that movie...
I actually want to talk about that, but maybe not tonight, because Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who has been cast in the new Matrix movie, is in the new Watchmen series, and I'm excited. But that's all I'll say.
We'll put this back in the box for now.
Yeah. So... I guess we should get back to actually talk about Knives Out.
A triumphant return to form.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way to put it. And with that return to form comes, I think, like I said, Rian Johnson's signature style. And you've got like Steve Yedlin doing the cinematography, which he's done, I think, for all of Ryan's films.
Of some of the insane little details that I've seen, like on Twitter and all this kind of stuff, like behind the scenes sort of photos of them, like disguising lighting equipment as windows that are going to be reflected on characters' glasses so that they can get interesting angles and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't pull you out of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's like, he said on Twitter that there's hundreds of just little things that audiences will probably never know, but are really incredibly interesting and detailed.
That's the magic of movie making.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a trick. Like, everything you see has been staged perfectly so that when you're watching it, you don't feel like you're watching a movie, and you don't know that they're beyond the frame. There's wires and cables and lights and people running around and the boom mic guy and this and that and the other. And it's like, but you don't think of that.
Yeah, no. And like he was saying, with this movie, half the fun that crew had was coming up with these ingenious little ideas.
Yeah,
that they could do interesting things. Yeah, and like have it still be sort of like movie magic.
Especially when you're filming in a house, which even though it's a big house, it has a lot of restrictions. So yeah, you have to be creative. Also, I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure because it's set in that one mansion. Also, it's not like a Clue Murder by Death thing where it's like they're all stuck in the mansion. Like the mansion is the main place, but they can leave.
Can go,
like, it takes place over a few days, and they go around and But I think they actually stitched together several filming locations to make it seem like it was one house. Like a Hogwarts thing where they were filmed in different castles and then...
I did see a picture of the interview room.
Yeah.
And like there was like the setup of like half the interview room, and then behind was like a whole bunch of like, you know, people and equipment.
Yeah.
So it didn't look like it was like one whole room. It looked like it was like the setup, the half of a room.
Okay, that was must have been the set.
Yeah.
But I think they filmed in location in certain spots as well.
Yeah.
Or maybe that was just exteriors. But anyway, like they do a good job of, you know,
Yeah,
that's part of the magic of it.
But so the production is insane.
Yeah, production design, costume design, I think is really good.
I thought the costume design was really nice.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, like I said, cinematography. The music's great.
Yeah.
The music's really good.
Nathan Johnson, who's done all the music for Ryan's films, except for Last Jedi, again returns. So it's like you get that.
There was some really cool jazzy kind of stuff going on. I really enjoyed
the strings,
almost like
the
a noir kind of.
Yeah, it's like a very violent kind of string, kind of, you know, intense kind of for the murder mystery. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like when Ryan is free of the Star Wars or free of the big franchise, and he's got all his collaborators. Noah Segan is in this movie, who's been in all of Ryan's films. You know, like
he can find his feet again.
Yeah, he's not. He's not trying to subvert anything. He's not trying to be a smartass.
It also helps that due to the nature of this film, he must have had more than one draft of the script.
That's another thing. I
you have to go over it multiple times just to make sure there's no loopholes.
That's actually another thing we could talk about. I saw an interview where he said he's been working on it for roughly around 10 years. You know, off and on. You know, he's had the idea for 10 years.
Yeah.
Star Wars, between Force Awakens coming out and Last Jedi coming out, what's that, 16, 17, 2 years? Like, the turnaround was very short, very quick. So they probably, J.J. Abrams said he didn't want to return. They went, which directors can we get? They probably maybe went to a different few people.
Pulled Rian Johnson's name out.
Rian Johnson out. And he was like, all right, cool. All right, one draft. For some reason, Kathleen Kennedy and the execs were cool with it, which is a big problem, which we'll discuss maybe in another Star Wars episode, and then filmed it, and then it's out. And it's like, hang on, maybe take a couple more years. You know, I know people are excited for this new franchise or whatever.
We waited long enough between Return and Force Awakens.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can wait a bit more and like maybe hammer some things down. It's like I said, if you're going to make this big franchise or this trilogy, you kind of have to know where you're going with it. You can't just be like,
fuck it, let's just see what happens.
Exactly, which is what Ryan did. Yeah, so...
To quote Bill O'Reilly, fuck it, we're going live.
Yeah, so...
Pardon my language.
No, how many
we're
times...
not live.
How many times have we dropped the C-bomb on this show?
Callum, go back and listen to the Boys review.
Yeah. Speaking of, Boys Season 2 teaser trailer. Anyway, yeah, music's great, cinematography's great, costume design, set design...
Editing's good.
Editing's
really good, yeah.
Cast, like I said, is great. Everyone's really good in it.
I like the part of the movie where they're talking to all the different members of the family, and they're all talking about the same party.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
And
all the different perspectives.
I like all the different. It's like the same event, but from all the different perspectives. I think that was really cool.
That's one detective trope that I really love.
Yeah,
is seeing the same angle,
the Rashomon.
The same perspective from different angles, getting everyone's interpretation of because different characters will see an event in different ways.
I like it. There's one good point of that where there was like the son who I forget his character's name. The son Michael, the son who controls the publishing house. Walt.
Michael Shannon plays
Walt. Yeah. I like that scene where they're talking to the different members of the family, and they're like, "Oh, they had a fight. There was yelling." And then you go to Walt's version, and it's like there's no yelling. They're just having a calm discussion about like what's going on with the publishing house, and it's just like I can't believe any of these people.
I like, and that's the other thing. That interview not only sets up the characters and their motives and relationships, but it sets up
the truth,
unreliable narrators, like who's telling the truth. And then when you do see the truth, that only the audience knows. The detective, played by Daniel Craig, Benoit Blanc.
KFC Poirot.
CIA KFC.
CSI KFC, He doesn't know the truth. So it's like, the movie's about him trying to uncover. That's the other thing I like about it. Pretty early on, they show you who done it. They show you the killer.
Yeah.
And then, so you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then the movie's more about like keeping that hidden, and like
There
how
is a
the
twist at the
detective
end.
finds out,
It's
and
like
then there's another
uncovering,
twist.
like other threads.
Yeah,
Like
but you know what I
family
mean.
secrets and
Yeah,
such.
you know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
usually the reveal would be left till the end, but it's like they kind of
Yeah.
reveal it early, and then the rest of the twist and mystery is
But I like the fact that it's almost a situation of like we know that early on in the movie we know that technically he did kill himself and that's fine.
yeah,
Instead of being murdered directly.
yeah,
And half of the detective, half of Monsieur Blanc's goal is like who hired him.
yeah, exactly.
So it's like
there are other
there are other
mysteries.
little mysteries that are important to other characters
Yeah.
than necessarily the murder.
Exactly, and there's like the blackmail and like who sent the
Yeah,
note.
because
and
like at the end of the movie, I love with the fact that he's just basically like, look, I knew you had something to do with it from the first time I saw you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what's more interesting to him is the fact that who hired him.
Exactly.
Because it's like, whoever hired Benoit Blanc has something to do with the murder.
Yeah.
So it's like, that is almost the central mystery because whoever hired Monsieur Blanc had something to do with the murder that she sort of thinks she
Yeah.
did, which is sort
like
of more
separate from her, yeah.
separate. It's sort of like,
yeah, that's one thing I really like about this movie is that it's like Blanc knows from the very first second he meets Marta, the
nurse.
caregiver.
the nurse. Yeah, it's like he knows she had something to do with it, but because she has a kind heart and like he like her disposition and like her relationship to the family and to Harlan, the deceased.
Yeah. The patriarch.
Yeah, the patriarch of the family who was killed. It's like Blanc, like, he wants to know what the other circumstances around that and why she's involved. Because she wouldn't...
It's a little more complicated, yeah.
And I think I really like Marta as a character, and Ana de Armas does a really good job playing her. And it's a really interesting character who, you know, her, like, main character...
Motivation?
Not motivation, like her... Like a thing, like her main thing is that she's just a good person.
Yeah, like
and
her
she can't
essence.
lie, which is a really
Yeah.
which is a really inventive sort of idea for who done it.
That's-
where so like Blanc uses this knowledge that knowing
Yeah.
she can't lie
It's like a
to
human lie detector.
to almost like it's like you know
Tease
the
out,
game
but-
You know the game Minesweeper.
Yeah.
It's like he's playing Minesweeper, and it's like he doesn't know which is the bomb,
Sort of,
but he can
yeah.
use her to sort of.
But I like how they set that up early, and like the first time I watched the movie, I was like, hang on, why that? Like that seems kind of a cheap gimmick because anyone, like, you know, she can detect, you know. I mean, she can't detect because she doesn't know, but if she knows something is a lie, it automatically. But I like how as the movie goes on, they use that either someone uses it against her, or she uses it like strategically to like.
Throw people off,
And it's like it's part of her like
it's almost manipulation.
Yeah, but it's like it's part of her struggle. Is like she can lie,
She just
but
gets
she's
sick.
gonna throw up. So it's like she has to be strategic about how and when she lies, and so it ends up adding to the tension of like the cat and mouse and the who done it. Like it's really good. But yeah, like I was saying, like Marta's like such an interesting, well written character, and I like how throughout the movie it's about this really rich, wealthy family.
And they're all terrible people.
Who are a bunch
basically.
of assholes because their father was the one who made all the money and just like gave them everything they ever wanted. And so they're all these huge like entitled
rich
douchebags.
people,
Yeah. And that's why like Harlan grew close to Marta because he felt like alienated from his assholish family, and she was a genuinely good person. And Blanc senses that in her and then uses her as his Watson, as he says, to like actually smoke out the real, not the real killer, because it will, you know, what happened. Like
like karma culprits.
yeah, exactly. Like the real bad guys. He smokes out. And I like how as the movie goes on, like, and the family gets, and you know, when Marta gets revealed to have been left all of Harlan's money. And then all the
real
family
ugliness starts.
Yeah, the family who are all like supportive of her and be like, we want to take care of you and you're part of this family. They keep saying you're part of this family.
Yeah.
And as soon as they find out she gets all the money and they don't get anything, they'll turn on her.
You're not real family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
they try to get litigious. And
Yeah, I really like that how as the movie goes on, it's like Marta's best defense is continuing to be a good person and not stooping to their level. And that's how she wins the game, as they say in the movie. It's like she just always does the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best like thing of this movie is you got all these rich douchebags, and then you've got like a sort of working class woman from a immigrant family.
Yeah.
And at the end, like when she's on the balcony overlooking them, and she's got the mug that says like "My house."
My rules.
Yeah, and she's like sipping, and they're all like looking at her, and she's looking down at them. I'm just like, yeah, fuck yeah! It's like such a great like class, redistribution of wealth kind of thing.
I wish the world worked like that, though, James.
But it's like I think like we're now in such a politically divisive time, and our media, in terms of news, is spouting all this nonsense and hate and propaganda.
Yeah.
It's in terms of mainstream news, I guess. Our movies are, I mean, most of it, it's hard to explain, but it's like most of them are like, it's just escapism. You're not really thinking about it. But I think, in the 80s, it's like the rich kid or the rich bad guy was always the bad guy. And now we gotten to the point where people don't see the rich people as bad guys anymore when we should be. But I think now slowly, it's gotten so bad with, all these ultra-conservative right-wing governments that people have actually started rallying against it again. And now we're seeing more of a, like, eat the rich kind of thing. Like,
so there's
these socialist movement towards
there's a
the
mentality that was popular like decades ago that's coming back again now.
Yeah.
In which it's like, well, how do these people accumulate their wealth? Generally speaking, it's off the back of labor. Of manual laborers.
Yeah.
So there's a in America, the politician, I think it was Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, I can't remember which, had a saying, every billionaire is a policy failure.
Yeah.
That's
probably Bernie, yeah.
No, because they don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
So it's like that sentiment's kind of coming back now, where the rich people should be positioned as how did you get that money?
But that's what I like about this movie. Is like all these rich, like Harlan. Generally, like we don't see a lot of him, but generally he seems like a pretty nice guy,
and he earned his money.
And everyone talks of him about how he's selfless and he gives, and he earned his money. But because he gave his money
to people who didn't necessarily
to his family who didn't deserve it, who didn't make it, they're the ones who turned into assholes. And this is the problem we're facing now: is all these rich douchebags ruling the world didn't earn their money, didn't work a day in their life. They like to pretend they did. They like to...
like Donald. He made his own fortune with a small loan of $1 million. Which they posted at 10 or something.
They riff on that in the movie where Chris Evans' character, I think, is talking about... Who's he talking about? He's talking about one of the other siblings.
I can't remember.
Yeah, he's like, he made his whole fortune with $1 million loan from my dad, from my granddad.
Which is quite funny because even today Donald brings out that line, but if you adjust for inflation, that's a much larger figure.
Yeah, even if it wasn't though,
still,
like that's still an amount most people will never see.
Like. I'm not saying it'd be easy, but if you gave me $1 million right now, I could retire and live happily.
How many times has Donald Trump's businesses failed? How many times has he gone bankrupt?
Without count.
Like he hasn't never done anything. Like he's not a good.
The thing about bankruptcy is they don't take everything, so he just keeps some stuff and then he starts again, and he's still better off than the poorest person in America.
That's what I'm saying. Is he like most people not just him, most rich people in the world? They have this safety net of their parents or their grandparents, and sometimes it depends how where the wealth was made.
Even if you're truly bankrupt, they don't take everything off you. They leave you with some assets,
that's what I'm saying.
And that's what they shouldn't be doing.
Nathan, that's what I'm saying is the fact that his parents were rich, or the fact that most rich people's money came from their parents, inherited wealth, like they have this safety net where they can go bankrupt, they can do terrible things, they can get away with whatever they want, without ever having to have worked a day in their life, without ever having to worry about if they're a good or bad person. Yeah. Whereas someone like Martha, who comes from an immigrant family...
She's very aware of her position.
Exactly.
And her resources.
And she's good because she knows it's the right thing to do. And in the end, that's why she wins.
It's that
unquote.
It's that greedy billionaire mindset of, why would I do anything if it doesn't help me?
Exactly.
And if you don't have significant resources to worry about like that, you're not going to worry about, am I going to lose $1 million if I make this decision?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because it's going to give you advantage.
And I like in the movie shows that where each of the family members, like try to get at Marta in their own way and try to manipulate her and try to manipulate each other, you know, and it shows none of them had her well-being in mind. None of them were doing anything selflessly. They were all doing it selfishly, you know? And the way she combated that was by continuing to be, like she had always been, a selfless, good person. I like that. I think she's an interesting character, well-written character. Where was that in Last Jedi? But anyway, we'll mention one more political thing, and then maybe we'll move on from that, because we haven't really talked a lot about the actual like movie. Jaden Martell's character, Jacob, who is the son of Walt, is like an alt-right, you know, like Twitter troll, like a internet troll.
Yeah, there's a thing with the young generations now where, like back in the day, trolls used to be
Just
like,
shit posting,
Yeah, these like hideous guys who would spend most of their time trying to upset other people on the internet or laughing at their own terrible jokes in their own terrible
like
corners.
trying to make the most edgy jokes.
Yeah, but I think that now, and like we've known people like this in our lives.
Yeah.
Where there's like a group of young men who think it's funny to... So I just want to do a quick definition of trolling, because a lot of media will say trolling is, you know, just like trying to shit stir. Originally speaking...
It was, originally.
No, so trolling originally was not necessarily malicious in intent. It was saying something that you knew would get people to argue. It wasn't saying someone...
But that's shit stirring.
Yeah, but it wasn't like... Trolls, in quotation marks, today are people who will go on the internet and call someone a C word. Like, whereas originally trolls would start arguments for the sake of starting an argument, not necessarily saying the most hurtful things possible.
Yeah.
It was like me coming into the studio and saying, actually, The Last Jedi was a good movie. You're all just whiny man babies.
Or Murder Mystery is better than Knives Out.
Yeah, but
That's me trolling James.
But my point is...
Oh, yeah,
I'm not being offensive.
No.
I'm just pissing him off.
You're
My
doing it to
point
spite me.
The new version of trolling is... saying hurtful things to hurt people with no other purpose other than being malicious.
Yeah, or
trolling's never been good.
It's a targeted kind of
attack. It's like an attack
with the fake shield of like, oh, it's just a prank, bro.
That's
so
exactly
it's like it's
right.
pretending to be old school trolling. Like, I'm just trying to make a joke, trying to stir up trouble, but in reality, they're actually attacking.
Yeah, but also young men are lured in by actual Nazis.
Yeah,
under the premise of memes and like jokes.
We have had this discussion many times where it starts as just shit posting and memes, and it kind of morphs into, well, actually, maybe these Nazi funny.
Maybe they have a point.
Yeah, maybe these funny Nazi memes that I keep posting to rile people up. You know, like maybe the people getting offended, maybe they're the problem. You know, maybe Hitler wasn't so bad. You know, it starts as shit post and it escalates. Yeah.
And before you know it, Pee-Pee the Frog is a Nazi, and the OK sign is
white power.
Is a white power symbol.
It's the internet. At the end of the day, we all know. Yeah. Like this didn't happen back in our day when we were kids, because if you said shit like this on the street or in the school ground, you get hit.
Well, that's the thing. The anonymity that the internet gives you, I think, is a lot of the problem, and the free access everyone has to it on their phones and at all times. But like, this ties into my point of it trickles down from Harlan being a generally pretty cool person, made all this money, he gave it all away to his children. They all became huge entitled assholes,
and his grandson.
And now his grandson is now a straight up like neo-Nazi alt-right
degenerate
Twitter troll. Yeah. And it kind of shows that the damage that has when you're not actually taking care of your family and you're just like throwing money at them, and how someone like Jacob's character, the Twitter troll, he could go into politics or he could run a big business.
That's right.
He could affect policy.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Marta could not.
That's right.
And so this is why we're in the problems we're having now. All these rich douchebags who run the world are Twitter trolls who were given everything by their mummy and daddy.
The whole family, the family as a whole, seems to generally lean on the conservative side.
Oh, definitely. They make jokes about, SJW snowflakes and stuff.
They make arguments like, oh, well, not all immigrants are bad. Marta came here legally.
That's
like,
actually...
There's like a whole kind of defense of their views going on. Like maybe Trump... Yeah, I think one of them says that one of the Republican defenses of Trump is, oh yeah, he's a bad guy, but maybe we need an asshole.
Yeah, Don Johnson's character is like trying to defend. Yeah,
I'm like sitting there, I'm like, oh,
exactly. It's
like,
just so cringe. Yeah,
no, it's like I'm hearing things people actually say.
Yeah,
and it's upsetting me.
Exactly. Like everything in the movie seems exaggerated, but everything in the movie is like pretty accurate.
It's getting really bad, man. Just quite recently in Victoria, where we live, there was a group of people who walked into a Coles supermarket dressed in Nazi uniforms.
Yeah, like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
but
you'd get knocked the fuck out.
Come to the northern suburbs and see how far you get.
Yeah, but it's like 10 years ago, you get knocked the fuck. No one would have dreamed of that.
Yeah.
Now, it's a bunch of young guys thinking they'd shit stir.
Oh, no, and they'll say it's just a joke. Like, what's like, it's a
then
joke.
when they
It's
get
just
in
a
trouble-
joke. It's just a joke. You're in a Nazi uniform in a group walking around in public.
Then they get in trouble and then they go, oh, you can't say anything more. Cancel culture, cancel culture, you know? Like, this is the problem we're at.
It's bad enough that there's a store near us that sells Nazi memorabilia
Oh, yeah.
for non-historical
Didn't
purposes.
they finally get shut down?
No, it's still there.
Oh, really?
They sell swastika armbands.
Yeah.
Like, not old ones.
Yeah.
There's Nazis everywhere.
Yeah, but it's for historical collectors.
But it's historical collectors.
Yeah.
There's
Anyway,
Nazis
we're getting off
everywhere,
track.
and it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
And this movie pokes fun at it a little bit.
But I like the way that the movie deals with it. I do like the scene, though, where Don Johnson's character, Richard, is like saying, like, trying to defend Trump and that. And then at the start of the movie, he's doing the interview with the police, and they're like, "Oh, tell us about the party. Tell us about Marta. What was she doing at the time?" And he's like, "Oh no, Marta's part of the family." And you see a flashback of the family, like gesturing to her and smiling, saying, like, "Come, come join us and have some cake or whatever." And then later in the film, when you actually see what happened for real, and you see that like Richard's defending Trump, and he's like, "Oh, Marta's family's from Uruguay." He's like, "Come over here, and you see the same shot of him like saying, "Come on." It's like slow motion with smiling.
I like how every single one of them says she's from a different country.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
To be fair,
her family's from Ecuador,
Paraguay.
Yeah.
To be fair, isn't one of the family members was against Donald, right? To be fair.
Yeah, Toni Collette's character.
Yeah.
But she's a different. See, I mean, we could just make this whole episode political, but like, she's another character who's like a more left-leaning, kind of free-spirited, kind of quote-unquote hippie, to use that word. And she's against all the terrible right-wing things. But at the end of the day, she's all about the money.
Yep. Yeah.
She's all about
when her money's threatened.
She's all about the power and the influence. And as soon as that's threatened,
she's a Hillary.
Yeah.
She'll do what it
turn
takes,
on you. Yeah, exactly. She'll turn into a vulture. But yeah, so then of course this adds to another element where people are saying, well, the Jacob character, the Twitter troll, the alt-right Nazi kid on his phone all the time, is actually, like a poke at fun at all the Last Jedi detractors.
I don't believe that for a minute.
And Rian Johnson, that might have been his intent, which is it's a very childish and
look. The reason I disagree with that is because he was in a black suit. There was no. If he had a Star Wars shirt on, I could understand
wasn't like a neckbeard. Yeah. But I think it also, because it ties so deeply into the themes of the movie and the class kind of division in the movie, that it's not just a random neckbeard character posting,
that would have been funny.
Star Wars.
I would have laughed.
Yeah, I would have
been like, what a dickhead, but I would have laughed.
But look, I was to say there was a lot of, because this is kind of related, there was a lot of drama over the Last Jedi reception, the public reception, because as we know, the critical reception was high, the public reception was middling to low.
Mixed.
Yeah.
I think it was divided, I think.
So,
I think slowly it might have started. I think now people are slowly coming around to the idea that it wasn't good.
Yeah,
but I think when it dropped, when it came out, like the audience was like some people were like, this is the greatest Star Wars movie ever made. But as we discussed, most of those people didn't care, I think. Didn't actually really care, and now sort of some of the more hardcore fans are sort of changing their minds.
A lot of the dickheads who are in fact incels who didn't like the movie, kind of painted everyone with the same brush.
Yeah.
So it was hard to have that conversation about The Last Jedi from an objective perspective.
Yeah.
Because all the media would just say,
That's the other thing.
because one Nazi guy didn't
Yeah.
like it. Everyone's a Nazi
That's the
guy
other
who
thing.
doesn't like it.
It's also, I mean, we can talk about this on another Star Wars episode or a Disney episode, where Disney's fake wokeness of like we have diverse casting and this, that, and the other, and if you don't like it, that means you're against that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're just against bad movies.
Yeah.
And we've been saying this since the very beginning of our Star Wars reviews. Is like, we don't care that Rey is a woman. We don't care that Finn is black. That doesn't even factor into it.
Why would we talk for 7 or 8 hours?
Yeah, it's like
if
it's like we talk about the filmmaking and the lore
No,
and the magic of Star Wars and movies. We don't like.
Yeah, I'm just saying that because like some people are allegedly saying that the Nazis in the movie
That's what I'm
represent
saying.
Star Wars nerds.
Yeah,
I'm
people
like,
boil it down to that simple thing.
yeah, it's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah. And I think, that's just a really childish, immature way. If that was
I don't
Rian
think-
Johnson's intention, because I don't know how. Again,
it doesn't come across for me.
I like his sense of humor. I think he's a really cool guy. I like watching interviews with him. But when it comes to Star Wars, Rian Johnson sounds like a smug douchebag.
Yeah.
With that little smirk in his, even
Yeah.
just that wink in his eye, talking about. So I wouldn't put it past him.
I have a feeling he knows that
I don't
The Last
think he's
Jedi was a bit of
self-aware
a turd
enough.
because
I don't think he's self-aware
well,
enough.
apparently John Boyega also had reservations about it. Did you hear about that?
Well, we talked about this last week off mic, and maybe we'll bring it up with the Rise of Skywalker
Yeah.
review.
But
But,
so
I think a lot of the actors, now that the trilogy's over,
They can freely talk about it.
and John Boyega's like being a bit salty on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping when Rise of Skywalker is all done and come out, he's going to go full and be like, here's what happened on set.
So I think if he knows that some people involved in the movie didn't like it, which he probably does.
Yeah.
Well, Mark Hamill wasn't exactly subtle.
Like
Well,
my point
yeah.
is, if there's more people were voicing concerns behind the thing, he might know that there's a possibility his movie's not as great as he thinks it is anyway. And
Ryan,
he's and he was just defending it because he has to defend.
I think, we'll see in the years to come. And even if he does think that way, I don't think he's ever going to admit it.
No.
Especially with his new trilogy coming out. Which we'll talk about maybe later. But it's like, I don't think he's that self-aware about it. And I think that's a shame as well, because I think he's a smart guy. And I think he's a funny guy.
I mean, look at Knives Out.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really a shame when it comes to Star Wars, and it's really a shame that he's going to be wasting his time with a new trilogy when he could be making good movies like this or like Looper. So
I think he's a director that just needs to stay away from franchises and deal with his own original scripts.
Exactly.
I mean, you never know. I mean, in terms of a trilogy, if he has the opportunity to plot a trilogy from beginning to end, maybe he'll do something workable.
Maybe.
Maybe it was just being stuck in the middle of something that shit him.
I'm trying not to sympathize with the man because Last Jedi was a war crime.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
No, yeah, definitely.
But like having to make a movie in the middle of a trilogy when J.J. Abrams had no idea where he was going is not the easiest task in the world.
Yeah, but we've discussed this for hours. That didn't mean he could just be like, fuck it, I'm going to just shit all over this and take the piss. He should have been like, okay, I know J.J. Abrams didn't know what he's doing, but how can I kind of develop this and go in a more interesting direction? He didn't do that at all.
No, that's right.
As we were actually talking about before the movie came out, we were actually like, well, Rian Johnson's really good with character and dialogue. Maybe he'll actually develop the characters that J.J. Abrams didn't in Force Awakens. But no, he didn't. So I think, like I said, I'll never forgive him for Last Jedi. And he should never be forgiven, and he should be ashamed.
Yeah.
But I think he's still a really smart, talented guy.
He does have a lot to offer.
It's a shame that he's going to be stuck doing more shitty Star Wars movies when he could be making good movies. And I think this also comes to another argument, and I promise we'll finish up this conversation soon. If he was just doing Star Wars to get his foot in the door and so that production companies and studios would give him more money to make movies like Knives Out, because, Knives Out, he probably, a lot of the good faith he built up with the studios, and Disney with Last Jedi, despite the critical reaction, despite the,
it still made a buttload of money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's still in good with the Disney execs. So Knives Out, whoever funded that movie, I can't remember who, it might be a Disney company, he's set now. He can make all these weird little mystery movies, because he's making the big bucks with Star Wars. And a lot of directors do this, a lot of actors do this. They do the big movie,
So they can do their hipster
so then
movies.
they can get the money to do the
That's
small
right.
hipster movie.
Robert Pattinson does Batman, so he can do The Lighthouse.
Sort of, yeah. But that doesn't mean that the big blockbuster movie that you're doing so you can fund your passion project, that doesn't mean you should take the piss out of that. That doesn't mean you should half-ass that. And this is one of the many reasons why I always defend Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, is because, yes, the argument can be made. He only made those movies so he could make Prestige, Inception, and Interstellar. So he could get the big bucks, so he could work on his more passion project. But at the end of the day, I don't think you can say the Dark Knight trilogy is half-assed or
No, man, that's
was
full-assed.
bad. Exactly.
He put some weight on so he'd have a bigger ass so
Yeah.
he could full-ass it even more.
And now he's like set for life. Like any studio will give him any money to make huge big movies,
yeah.
you know. But so Rian Johnson, if his plan is to do Star Wars so he can get the big bucks, so he can make smaller passion projects, that doesn't give him the right to take the piss.
Yeah,
It doesn't
to phone it in.
Doesn't give him the right to phone it in. Doesn't give him the right to shit all over something that other people find important just because he doesn't.
Yeah, it,
You know what I mean?
It did come from a place of meanness.
I think so.
Like some of the stuff he did with the Jedi.
It definitely. That's why I always use the words like "take the piss" and
Yeah, like
and kicking the balls. Like
especially
it definitely was a targeted, like the Twitter troll, that the alt-right Twitter trolls we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's a targeted attack on
Like-
people who love Star Wars and the lore.
I understand that the expanded universe is no longer canon. The legacy universe, I should say.
Hmm.
But I'm like, I feel like it has to come from a place of meanness because you can see the old trajectory arcs of the characters, which continues the
But-
growth of those characters.
Yeah.
And then you compare that to what Rian Johnson did.
Yeah.
And it's like complete 180s where everyone's just shit now.
We talked about this where it's like you don't have to follow the EU. If you've never read it, if you don't know anything about it, if you don't consider it canon, that's fine. But there's a logical progression
that's
of
right.
where Return of the Jedi ended and where all the characters in the world went from there. But this again, we won't talk about this anymore.
no.
We'll cut this conversation short. But J.J. Abrams really fucked that up. And Rian Johnson that's part of the reason why Rian Johnson did what he did and why Last Jedi is bad is because Force Awakens is bad. And it's bad
No, but what I mean is no one forced Ryan to approach it with a sense of meanness.
At the end of the day, it's his fault.
It would have been a shit movie, but it wouldn't have made us as mad.
Yeah.
As he could say, yeah, I'm making a shit movie, but the Jedi don't suck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we talked about this on the Last Jedi episode. He could have wrapped everything up and sent off characters respectfully, and then that way he could still do whatever he wants in his trilogy later on.
Instead, Luke farts himself out of existence.
Exactly. It's a joke. All right, let's move on. One more Last Jedi thing, and then we won't talk about it anymore. So there's a bit in the movie where Marta and Chris Evans' character Ransom,
Yep.
like escaping the police
Yeah.
in like her little shitty like Hyundai hatchback. And she's like flooring it. She's like, I'm literally flooring it, and like
Yeah, and they're not going very
yeah,
fast.
they're not going,
yeah.
and all the cop cars are like right behind her and she's like, it's like
And Ben Miles like kind of like wired the window down.
yeah, I like that too. And Blanc is like keeps calling her,
Yeah.
and like the police cruiser pulls up next to her, and he's like hanging out the back window, like pointing at the phone, like answer. But anyway, it's like she like managed to slip down like an alleyway, and because the big police SUVs are too big, they crash. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing. And then she finally escapes, and she's like, oh my god. And then like just someone knocks on her window, and the camera pulls back, and all the cops are behind her. Like she didn't escape them at all. And then Lakeith Stanfield's character is like, dumbest car chase ever. It's a really good scene. It's really funny. But I'm like, I don't think Rian Johnson's self-aware enough for this. But one of our major complaints and one of the reasons Last Jedi is such a terrible movie is because it's built around
The dumbest car chase
ever, which is just the spaceship slowly going in one line, in a straight line. So I just thought that was funny, but I'm like, Rian Johnson's not self-aware enough. He just like he didn't make that connection. But I thought that was funny, and it's a good scene too, and I laughed. All right, we won't talk about Last Jedi anymore, and we won't talk about politics anymore. Now we'll just talk about
The
Knives
movie.
Out,
Yeah.
the movie. Yeah, so
Daniel Craig's performance.
yeah.
I'm generally speaking not a huge Daniel Craig fan, just because
I think
his personality to me seems very annoying. He's like because he whinges a lot.
No, I think a lot of actors whinge a lot. I think it's just that he's been Bond for so long now that's all people kind of see him as like the pretty Bond guy. But it's like he's actually a really interesting actor, and I think this is a more interesting
his
role
performance
for him.
as Benoit.
Yeah.
I thought was really great.
It's really good.
Apart from early in the film, there's some accent bits where he sounds more English than he does Southern. But
I think there was a couple of moments.
but
I'm not sure if it's his Kentucky drawl or it's a little bit too similar to.
No, I think.
But later on, like after that, his accent's pretty
I think
good.
an argument could also be made that the English accent and the Southern drawl
They're kind of
actually
similar
have
enough.
similarities.
They do have similarities.
Yeah, more similarities than the regular American accent and the English accent.
His performance is solid.
One thing I'll say, which it's not a problem, but I guess it's a criticism. It's an understandable thing that they couldn't really avoid. It's like they had to shoot this movie quickly before Daniel Craig went off to do Bond. And I wanted to see an alternate reality version of this movie that's exactly the same, but where Daniel Craig didn't have to go off and do Bond. Because I feel like he
was rushed a bit.
No. I feel like his design of his character, he just looks like Bond kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume in an alternate reality where Bond, he didn't have to do Bond after this, he'd have like a little mustache or maybe a bit longer hair or something. Do you know what I mean?
Could subvert Poirot's mustache a little bit.
Yeah, like I know,
Like you have
I know
a
it's
little
almost cliche
Poirot-
because it's like he's got the Poirot mustache.
But it'd be funny.
But it makes sense for a southern,
Maybe a beard.
and it doesn't. Yeah, maybe even a beard. Maybe
A little KFC goatee.
yeah. So you know what I mean?
That's
Like,
when they call him CSI KFC.
Yeah,
It could
that
be a
also-
giggle because he has the facial.
yeah,
hair.
he could have the Colonel Sanders' goatee
Goatee,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's the way they envisioned the character. But it's just a little thought I had. I was like, I feel like if he didn't have to do Bond, he wouldn't have had just his short hair and clean shaven. Like they would have done something more eccentric. Because Benoit Blanc is like more of an eccentric.
He's very Hercule Poirot-ian kind of character.
Yeah, he's like
the last of the great detectives.
Yeah, he's like a southern Poirot kind of thing. Yeah,
gentleman
like,
detective.
Exactly. The last of the gentleman detectives. Exactly. So, yeah, that's just a thing I was thinking while watching the movie. What else?
Well, gosh. Well, the big twist isn't what you think.
Yeah.
Like
That's something we haven't really talked about is how, like I said earlier in the show, like they reveal the killer, quote unquote, pretty early on.
Yeah, so it's assumed it's suicide, but it's suicide because he thinks he's going to die a terrible death. So,
like, his throat is slashed, which is an unusual method of suicide, but there's no evidence that any other foul play. And so they're kind of just like, well, it's got to be suicide. But then you think, well, it's got to be one of the family members because they all have motives. Harlan was cutting them all off from his money and, putting them in their place and making sure all the family members knew that they couldn't exploit him anymore. And so all of them had motives to kill him. And so you're like, who done it? And Marta was the one closest to him and the one who cared about him most. And then they show her injecting him with the medicine that she gives him every night. And then, obviously there's that whole thing of like, she gave him the wrong one and he's going to die. But if he dies, then her family will be,
deported.
Yeah. And so like he kills herself pretty much to save her.
Yeah.
So I like that as well. It's like it shows Harlan's kind of selflessness as well as her. Like that's why they connected. But yeah, I thought I was watching the movie and I was like, oh wow, they just showed that he killed himself and that she was, by mistake gave him the wrong medicine and, and I was like, and now it's going to be about her kind of getting away with it and about, like we said, like about who hired Blanc and who would have most to gain and this, that and the other.
And then the big twist really comes about with the toxicology report.
Yeah.
When the audience finds out that in fact
she gave him
she didn't accidentally poison him. She gave him the right liquids because I feel it. But then Benoit also goes on to say that she probably wouldn't have made that mistake anyway because she's unconsciously aware of the sort of the subtle
viscosity.
differences in the viscosity and the sort of the weight of the liquids.
Yeah.
So she does it without even noticing almost.
Yeah.
So she didn't poison him, but the labels were switched.
Yeah.
And then the mystery sort of comes around
Who
about who
switched the labels.
swapped the labels.
Also, like Fran, the housekeeper, who blackmails Marta with the toxicology report. Then there's that mystery of like who was Fran in it, like who's she working for? Why does she know? And then you find out no, it's actually she was blackmailing Ransom because she saw him switching the labels. And then he killed her, and then and then he
So, like, the movie-
made it look like she was blackmailing Marta, so that Marta would fall into
and
the
it's like
trap and
there's
get
like-
caught by the police.
There's like one point in the movie where the movie's juggling like 3 or 4 mysteries at the same time.
That's what I really liked about it. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the criticisms I've been seeing online are people saying it's predictable, it's just a
But it's
boring
not.
whodunit. I'm like, but the thing that's great about it is that it's not just a whodunit, like who's the killer. It's like they show you what happened. There's no murder in the movie, really.
Yeah.
And then it's all about like the mystery of like who's blackmailing who, where's this coming from, who hired Blanc, why, you know.
It's a murder mystery in quotes where the murder is secondary to everything else.
Yeah.
And that's why it
But
works.
only Marta, Blanc, and the audience at a certain point knows that.
Yeah.
And everyone else, it's still like a...
So in that way, it's a very good subversion of the whodunit
Sort of, yeah.
trope.
That's why I think I said that to Callum, is because I saw the movie first, because I was willing to give Rian Johnson a chance. And then Callum, I saw it, and I said, came to you guys, I was like, it's really good, we should all go see it. And Callum was like, yeah, but there's a subvert, and something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, but yes. Because I was
Yeah.
like, it kind of subverts the murder mystery thing by, it's like showing you that,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like what we've been talking
it's a
about.
murder mystery, but the murder is this.
Yeah, it's like they show you who done it. It was kind of a suicide, but it's like then the mystery is like surrounding that.
Yeah, so that's more interesting.
Yeah, so I guess it is a subversion in a way.
Technically, I would call it a subversion of the whodunit genre.
As well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really well done.
It's really well done.
It's a successful subversion.
Look, he certainly subverted my expectations.
Yeah.
I feel like even though we've obviously spoiled quite a lot of the plot, that still shouldn't.
Oh, if for
I'll
some
watch it
reason,
again.
If for
Like-
some reason, because I've seen this movie twice, and I was kind of on the edge of my seat the second time, even though I knew everything that was going to happen. I'm like, it's fun to see the reveals and the the background information. You're like, that points at that clue.
Yeah.
And
I'll watch it again when it gets released on home video.
if for some
Yeah.
reason you're listening now and you haven't seen the movie, but you're listening to the review for some reason, still check out the movie.
It's still a really good watch.
'Cause
It's entertaining.
It's really entertaining. It's really funny.
and
It's got a lot of-
it's
fun.
the acting is all. It's all.
All the characters are really good. Jamie Lee Curtis is really good.
All the little
Michael Shannon's so good.
all the little things
Uh,
make this movie a rewatchable.
It's like I said, all the lines in the background that you don't really throwaway lines.
The little
that-
details.
Yeah, like I like when Chris Evans' character is like, eat shit, eat shit, eat shit, and everyone's like yelling at him. and-
everyone's getting individually offended when
Yeah.
he points to them.
Exactly, and then at the end of the scene where everyone's yelling, you just hear Michael Shannon be like, "I will not eat one iota of shit." Like it's just so everyone's so good.
It's a movie where it's like you watch it and you think, I bet they had a really fun time making this movie.
Oh yeah, it looks like so
it's
much
one of those
fun.
movies where it's like you got all these actors together
Yeah.
and the dynamics, and it just would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's like it feels like a family,
Yeah.
but also it's dysfunctional,
Yeah.
and they're like yelling, and they're all terrible, horrible people.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Everything's so sort of larger than life,
Yeah.
and like big.
It's larger than life, but also kind of accurate.
yeah,
You know, 100% accurate.
It's so good.
Yeah,
Highly recommend it.
Yeah. What else? I feel like we're missing something.
We can talk about the fact that Nonna isn't actually as senile as everyone thought
Yeah,
she
that's
was.
actually I really like the Nana character because, like, yeah, she's. I
That's
love-
one of my favorite lines in the movie.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
how old is she?
No one
and it's
knows.
like nobody knows.
I love
That's
that
so
Michael
good.
Shannon's character's like, Nana,
Yeah,
have you eaten?
Do you want dinner? Eat.
And I love it because that's also quite realistic. There's a certain, like, let's say a certain part of Europe where there's after at a certain age, a lot of these elderly people probably don't actually know their real age.
Yeah, like
True.
You go back a couple of generations, there's no birth certificates.
Like
really.
in certain parts of the world, in poor Eastern Europe, like they really
But
don't.
it's just the question because Harlan's 85.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like his mother is still
Yeah.
alive. It's like, well, how the hell old is she?
But I'm sure there's people like that.
Oh,
who-
definitely.
We don't know how old Nonna is. She
No.
doesn't know how old she is. They can guess.
Yeah.
Like she knows she was a teenager in World War II, and so they have
Yeah,
maybe a window of 5 years.
Yeah.
But no one knows how old
No,
Nonna
for
is.
sure.
I just like the yelling at her, like,
Yeah,
Nonna,
yeah.
have you eaten?
Yeah, have you eaten? Yeah, no, I like it because I like how she seems senile or whatever, and she's always like like she thinks everyone's her grandson Ransom, so
Yeah.
she's like Ransom, and then later like Blanc is talking to her, and he's just talking. He's like, I feel like a lot of people in the family aren't paying attention to
Yeah.
you. I just want to let you know that I'm listening.
Yeah,
And I
no
actually
one's no one's offered their apologies to her.
condolences.
condolences,
It's
yeah.
like I feel like I actually enjoy your like sitting. I feel it's like pleasant sitting here with you, and then you don't see it, but she tells him that Ransom came back to the house, and then I like the bit at the end where Marta's about to reveal to everyone that she's the one who accidentally killed Harlan. And then that'll mean that she loses the inheritance and that it all goes back to them. And just before she can, Daniel Craig comes in and says, because he's seen the toxicology report that actually shows that she gave him the right medicine, that she's innocent. And he stops and he's like, she's decided to keep the money and you're all terrible people and you treat her like shit. And it's my recommendation that to the police that this is a suicide case. And, and it's like, and then I can't remember what the punchline is, but then the Nana's just like, heh heh.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Like they're all like all the families like really pissed off that they're not going to get their money, and she's just like, heh. Like, so I think
Yeah.
she knows.
Oh,
she seems
would
a bit,
know because like she was there before the wealth.
yeah,
Like she's
yeah.
just seen the rise and the fall. Like
But see, I like how, I like how. Like,
it's back to Rian Johnson's humor.
exactly. It's like without like she doesn't really have. She has like 2 lines in the movie. She just is not really a character. But it's like you get a sense of, who she is. Like I like that.
Yeah.
It's a really well written movie. Oh yeah, I like the bit where Blanc is in the car, like talking through his process.
Yep.
And then later in the movie, he's like talking about there's a hole at the center of this mystery, like a
It's a
donut.
donut within a donut.
Yeah, and then at the end of the movie where he's
Donut
like,
hole in
yeah,
the
he's like
donut,
trying.
yeah.
He's like, you got a donut, but there's a donut filling the hole, which has its own hole, and it's like, but it's not a donut hole at all because it's like that was so funny. I was laughing so much.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, and I like at the end where he's like, it's that classic Poirot thing where he's like telling them how he solved the mystery and all the processes of like how actually Ransom was the one who stole, switched the medicine and someone's mowing the lawn outside the tennis club next door. And how he's like, it's actually, and you're the one who blackmailed and you black, and then
he kind of untangles the web.
yeah, and then which is a great scene in every mystery, but it's really well done, especially because Daniel Craig like pulls up his sleeves and puts his tie in his shirt like he's getting ready for a fight.
Yeah.
And then Ransom's like, yeah, but you ain't got shit on me. Like this is all conjecture. And it's like, well, actually, Fran survived, and she's going to testify that you tried to kill her. And then Marta gets a call from the hospital, and it's like, oh yeah, Fran survived, and she can testify that you tried to kill her. But obviously she can't lie because she'll throw up.
So she holds it in.
So
as long
she's
as she
holding
can.
it in, and then Ransom
He admits it.
realizing that he's
caught.
Like he's caught. He's like, well, screw it. Like, and he
Yeah.
grabs a knife off the display.
In
and like,
for a penny, in for a pound.
yeah, and goes to stab her, and it's like really dramatic slow mo.
And there's a line earlier on in the movie with Harlan where he says it's impossible to tell which of the knives
Yeah.
is fake and which is real.
And I like how he's actually in that scene. He's talking in relation to Ransom. Also, his name's Ransom.
Yeah. His middle name, yeah.
Oh, you did it. You did this.
Yeah. Oh, I hated
You
it.
did
Can I
this.
say how much I hated that?
I thought that was pretty funny.
No, I cringed. I was like, oh my god.
It's cheesy.
Because his real name.
It's cheesy, but it's
You
funny.
did this.
You did
She
this.
didn't say you did this.
I
She
need to
said
see.
you did
This is a rewatch moment when I need to go and rewatch and see if she actually says you or if
On
they
the
change it to say you.
On the second watch, I was listening. It's she doesn't hit the H sound.
Okay.
Like it's more.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like you. I think they're definitely because it's so obvious.
Yeah,
They're definitely trying to keep it on the down low.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he goes to stab Marta, and he like stabs her, and on the ground, it's like super dramatic slow mo, and then like nothing happens, and he like lifts up the knife, and it's a stage prop,
Yeah.
and it's like one of the retractable knives. It's so good. And then she
and he's like,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh wait. Oh no! But she throws up in his face before this.
Yeah.
Then he admits it, and then she throws up in his face, and he's like, "What the shit?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, actually I
Friend's
lied.
dead, yeah.
Friend's dead, and she can't testify against you, but you just admitted it on tape." And that's when he decides to kill her. Yeah, that
So
was good. Oh man, that's a good that's why I like that throwing up thing, which I thought was a bit weird at the start. I'm like, oh, that's a gimmick. How are they going to use that? But I like how they use it throughout the movie. And then it has that punchline at the end where it's like she uses it strategically by holding the vomit in until she can get the confession.
Because everyone just takes whatever she says as true.
Yeah, and then she throws up, and it's like, oh, it's so good. Oh man. Anything else? What else happens?
I don't think we missed much.
Yeah, I'm sure as soon as we end the episode, I'm going to be like thinking of all the other great... There's a lot of great jokes. MM at Walsh has a good small role as the security guard who's talking about, we have all this newfangled technology, and the camera pans over and there's all these old
I
black
like
and
that
white
little
TVs.
moment when she uses a magnet to up the tape, but I'm wondering how realistic would that have been?
I don't think that magnet would be strong enough.
Nah, because it's just a fridge magnet.
But
right?
that
Pretty
tape
much.
is really old and reused.
Yeah, that's true.
I do like, where Harlan's telling her, like, because he's a crime author, like a murder mystery author.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I like how the movie, it's about a murder mystery, but it's also about the murder of a murder mystery author. So he
planned his own murder almost.
Exactly. He plans out. He's like, here's what you're going to do, Marta, so that you can get away with it. He's like, you go out, and it's like you you turn off the road after the...
or was it before?
The stone elephant, or was it before? I like how he's like explaining it to her. It's like before, it's like after, and it like changes depending on what she remembers. Yeah, and I like how the movie, it's like because it's in the house, there's all the like the weird props and stuff, and Noah Segan's character, who's like a state trooper, and he's helping with the investigation. And he's a huge fan, and so he's like pointing out all the references, and he's like, "I get that," it's like that's so good. It's like, oh my god, it's so like he's such a
like he's name
fanboy.
dropping all these different books, and that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's like a world of all these books before. It'd be like if Stephen King got murdered, and then the cops went into his house, and there was like, oh, that's the clown from It. The way he was murdered was like at the end of The Stand with this, It's kind of like that kind of thing. Which is, that
works
fun.
really well.
Yeah. I think that's it.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
I don't want to leave any stone unturned. I guess like Benoit Blanc, we have to see the trajectory of the truth and then just walk up to it and then pick it. So we have to see the trajectory of the discussion. And it's like, and just we walked up to it and we've discovered it. But hopefully I haven't missed much.
Look, at the end of the day, Rian Johnson somehow redeemed himself. I had little faith, and yet here we are, one of the best movies of the year.
Yeah, I'm
not complaining.
Yeah, like I said, it's like I was there day one. I was willing to give this movie a chance because I like his other movies, except for Last Jedi, and it's just seeing the trailer and the cast and just when he announced after Last Jedi, when he announced I'm doing a murder mystery, it's called Knives Out. I was like, I'm in. Like, I think he's going to do a good... And he ended up living... Because I had higher expectations, higher than you guys, like, it still lived up to my expectations.
Like, this movie has something... It has a magic rewatchability about it, too. Like, I can watch this movie once a year.
Oh, yeah. It's because it's so fun, it's like you can... It's like... Yeah, it's not heavy...
It's one of those music, like, little things you'll notice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good. It's a good time.
Yeah. So, he is hoping that Rian Johnson continues... to make good original films.
And maybe 30 years, their pain will ease.
I don't know. I don't know. Still haven't forgiven George Lucas over the prequels, and that was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So we'll
Maybe
see.
15 years will ease the pain.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
But see, after the sequels, like people are, maybe not.
They're
maybe
a little
not,
bit more forgiving.
They're a bit more
Yeah.
forgiving with the prequels, considering how bad the Disney stuff's been. So, Rian Johnson has something to do. He has to do something so much more terrible that will forgive him for Last Jedi.
It's always
See, but then we went.
it's always
Hey,
possible.
He's got three more Star Wars movies coming up. He can outdo himself 3 more times. But like I said, in between those 3 movies, I hope he does more movies like this, more movies like Looper, more
Yeah.
movies like Brick. Because damn.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing. Joseph Gordon-Levitt has cameoed in all of Rian Johnson's films, and I kept looking out for the cameo. I couldn't find it. I was like, it's really disappointing he hasn't got a cameo. He's the voice of the cop on the TV show that Marta's sister is watching in the kitchen, who has that really hilarious line where it's like, you killed him. He's like, maybe he's not dead. And he's like, you crushed his skull with a forklift, and and he's saying all. I thought that was really funny. So that's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's
Very good.
cameo. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah. Should we move on?
That lawnmower was going to be fucking annoying.
Why does he have to do it? Like, they've never done it at this time before. Maybe because the weather's. All right. What else do we want to talk about?
Well, the Bond trailer
Keeping
drops.
on to with Daniel Craig.
Yeah. So
No Time to Die.
Yeah, I think last week we mentioned there was that teaser for the teaser, but now like the full trailer has dropped.
Looks
and
pretty good. I mean,
I mean, who knows? But like,
I think there's one thing we can agree on. The action looks amazing.
yeah, I think I was saying to you last night. I'm like, action wise, it's going to be great. Cinematography looks awesome. Stylish, cool.
Story-wise, it might
But
shit the bed.
Story and characters, I'm like, oof, this is going to be bad. Not bad, but
Yeah.
I'm worried.
I'm waiting for the reboot.
Because they're doing all this, because one of the problems I have with the Daniel Craig movies is that everyone was like, well, actually, you thought he was the bad guy. Actually, I was behind him, and I was the one behind him, and actually, I'm connected to your past, and actually, I'm connected to that guy, and I'm behind that. And it's like, it's too far up its own ass. It's like, just have a bad guy trying to take over the world or destroy the world or steal money, and have Bond fight him and destroy him in the end.
What just happened to an evil I'm losing megalomaniac. That word.
yeah.
Whatever happened to
Yeah.
that sort of billionaire villain who just
Yeah.
wants to destroy
just
something?
a Doctor Evil
Yeah.
kind of, just a Goldfinger tried to rob Fort Knox.
Global terrorist.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to blow up Parliament House. What are you going to do, Bond? Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And then make the movie about that.
Yeah.
Don't have so the thing I'm worried about in No Time to Die is that Rami Malek, who's playing the villain, throughout the trailer he's like, you don't know my suffering and you don't know what I'm going to do, and he's wearing this Phantom the Opera mask, and I'm just like, oh, they're really going to do it again, aren't they? Where he's going to be. I hope they don't.
I am your half brother.
Yeah, I hope they learned their lesson. I don't know if they did. I don't know if they took the criticisms of Spectre.
I think that any plus we're going to see from this movie is going to be pretty much because of Mission Impossible.
That's the other thing. Like we did mention last week, like this movie has to go full Fallout.
They're competing with our boy Tom Cruise. They can't be sleeping.
The Mission Impossible franchise is now at a point where...
Well, Daniel Craig did injure himself on the movie, so that's
a good sign.
So did Tom Cruise on Fallout, so it's a good sign. Yeah.
The thing is, now we've got Mission Impossible in a place where it is basically a Bond alternative.
Pretty
almost.
much. Also, because I didn't really like the Mission Impossible movies up until Fallout, and people have always been saying for the last few years, especially since Ghost Protocol, Mission Impossible is better than Bond, and people always say that. People always say that when Bourne came out, Bourne's better than Bond, this, that. I'm like, Bond is still the gold standard.
You can go back to the old Bond movies, and they're still worlds above.
Still, exactly. So for me, I've always been like, no, Bond is, even though the last couple of movies have been maybe disappointing in some areas, I'm like, Bond is still Bond.
GoldenEye still holds up.
Fuck yeah.
So
I feel like, even though I keep saying they should take from Fallout and they need to do the stunts and do that, What I'm also saying is they need to get back to what made Bond great,
Yeah.
which is the stunts, and which is what Mission Impossible Fallout did so well. So in a way, Mission Impossible Fallout is doing Bond better than Bond, just in terms of the action and the special effects and the stunts, because that's what Bond used to be
Yeah.
back in the day. So the new movies, Bond movies, have to
Meet that
standard
Yeah.
because that's the Bond standard.
Yeah.
Bond movies have to meet
Yeah.
the Bond standard.
Yeah.
So at the moment, their main rival is meeting a standard, but Bond isn't.
So the only thing I'm worried about is that with the last couple of Bond movies, they've been pushing the whole, like, Bond has like a squad. He has like Q and Moneypenny's now like a field agent, and even M got to shoot some people, I think. And yeah, so it's like he's got a little team going. And now in this movie, they seem to be doubling down on that. Plus, they've got that new agent, who I think they said is the new 007 after he retired. Plus, they've got Leah Seydoux' character, who's like his girlfriend or whatever. Who, again, this is another reason I'm worried about the story, is because they're like, you betrayed me. Why you're not actually who you say you are. I'm like, I'm worried about that shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, so he's got his little team, and they're all teaming up to fight the bad guy. And I was like, well, that's kind of like a Mission Impossible thing, where Ethan Hunt has all his like family, kind of all his
Bond is
friends,
best
you
when
know?
he trusts no one but
Exactly.
Felix.
So exactly. So Felix is in it as well. Fuck yeah, Felix is back.
Felix!
Wait, who?
Yes,
His
Felix-
CIA buddy.
Felix
Okay.
Leiter,
Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright's character. Fuck man, since Quantum of Solace, I've been. Have I told this story? I met Jeffrey Wright, the actor who plays Felix Leiter.
No.
I met him in Berlin when I went to the film festival after Skyfall had come out. And I said, I shook his hand. I said, I love Skyfall, but I need more Felix. Like, Felix wasn't in it. I said, have they talked to you? Like, are you coming back? And he just looks at me real cool. He's like, I've heard some things. And I was like,
It's like, yeah,
I was
my
like,
man.
this guy's so cool. I was like, thanks so much. I got his autograph and then I left. I was like sweating. I was like, man, that guy's so cool. Anyway, then Spectre came out and Felix wasn't in it. And I was like, damn it. But now he's in this one. So I'm so fucking excited. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, like, yeah, they're doing this like Mission Impossible. Like he's got his team, he's got his crew. So, but yeah, I think going back to like what we said where it just needs to be a bad guy who wants to destroy the world, and Bond fights him. Yeah, I think Bond works best kind of alone. And
Yeah.
as we discussed quite a while ago now, a few months maybe, where, you know, we're talking about the female Bond and all that. I was like, if you're going to change it to where it's not Bond anymore, maybe just end the franchise. But they won't because money and so on. But you know what I mean? Like, if it's going to be Bond and his team, it's not really...
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So...
at this point, if they're going to be doing that, just bring on
Yeah.
the reboot.
Look,
start it fresh.
Yeah.
I like Daniel Craig as Bond. I would like to see him as Bond again. But at this point, I think the reboot is...
Look,
necessary.
I feel like...
And that's the great thing. It's built into
Yeah.
the Bond franchise. Is like when it gets stale, reboot it. Like it's built in.
That's right.
You can't do that with a lot of other franchises.
I feel like my main problem is Daniel Craig complains about being Bond so much, and I feel like that's such a privileged position.
yeah,
But like my point is, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of actors
Yeah.
who can physically do the role, and who
But
also would
that-
kill for the opportunity
That,
to be Bond.
I think he's also like strategically just like
He's strategically
want-
whining so he
wanting
gets more money
yeah,
for the
so
next
they give him
movie.
more money.
But like my point is, if
And
I was
also-
the studio, I'd be like, you know what, Daniel? Do you know how many people are lining up around the block to audition to play Bond?
Yeah, but then if he said, "Well, I'll walk away," the producer will be like, "Oh, fuck, come back." You know, I don't think they're.
But I think their mistake is
Yeah,
actually not letting him go.
But that's the thing is, they should be like, "Look, Daniel, if you don't want to do it, we'll go." But I think he
No.
does want to do it. I
But
think
like, yeah.
his public like interview persona is that kind of more not curmudgeon. He's not the
Yeah,
right word, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if you've seen interviews with him, even non-Bond interviews, even for Knives Out,
Grumpy.
he's kind of a bit grumpy. You know, like I think he's had a few, and then, and then he's just like, you know, I just want to go home.
I saw a thing on the internet, people talking about like their fantasy Bond or whatever.
Mm.
And one of the things I saw, which I talked to you about off air, is someone linked a picture of Pierce Brosnan in a suit with like
Yeah.
a nice beard. They're like old man Bond.
Yeah.
I'm like, we live in an era where that could still happen.
Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan's
Even-
not too old yet.
I was saying to you, even Timothy Dalton, even though he's older, like he could pull that off as well.
Like I want to see a new, not because I don't like Daniel Craig, but I want to
Yeah.
see new ideas, new
Well,
new interpretations of Bond.
I think I mentioned on the show before, but like Adi Shankar, the movie producer, he has this YouTube channel called The Bootleg Universe, where he takes properties and he kind of makes the R-rated or the weird alternate version of it, which studios would never make, just like as a what-if scenario. And there was an little animated short with like Sean Connery as an old retired Bond who like comes out of retirement for one last mission. It's like a Logan thing where it's just like super violent and
That's
dark.
cool.
And it's like, yeah, they could do that with Pierce Brosnan or...
I think Pierce is a good sort of...
Because he's not too old yet,
Yeah.
he can still, I guess...
and they could
it's not like Robert De Niro in The Irishman where he's like
Yeah.
trying to be actiony,
It's-
but he moves real stiff
yeah.
like...
They could do like a one-off. Like just,
Yeah.
here's a Pierce Brosnan set in the same
Yeah.
continuity
'Cause that would-
as
yeah.
You
his
could even have
films.
like a 007 presents, like you know what I mean, like it
Sort
could
of,
be
yeah.
a side
And then
film.
once you've done that, then you just reboot the main franchise
Yeah.
again. But like another thing I love about the Bond franchise, like I said, is that reboot is built in, but also the timeline is kind of
doesn't have to be consistent.
yeah, exactly. It's like from Doctor No until Die Another Day. It's technically all in the same timeline. It's just the kind of the years that things occur and like are kind of moved up.
yeah.
So it's like even though it's impossible for
It's
Pierce Brosnan to have
Bond's
played the-
wife has always been dead
Exactly.
for a while. Not
Exactly.
too long, but a little while.
And
it's like
the thing with the Daniel Craig universe is that they rebooted it, so it's actually it's not a prequel. It's like a separate rebooted timeline where it's like he started again, and I'm like, that's fine. You can do that as well. But now, if Daniel Craig retires and we get another actor in,
it can be back to the original. Yeah.
you could do anything. You could continue the Craig timeline and say, well, all the stuff that happened in the Craig universe happened, but it's like it's just moved up a few years and it's with this new actor.
yeah.
Richard Madden. And like so yeah, and they could do anything, and then they could do a Pierce Brosnan movie set in the Pierce Brosnan timeline, which is also the Sean Connery timeline.
i.e. the golden years.
Yeah.
The best Bond years.
Fucking oath. And then they could continue on the normal franchise, But like we discussed a while back, they can do that, but if they start doing like female Bond spin-offs or like the crew, Bond and the crew, Bond and the fam, then I worry that, well, it's not Bond anymore.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, that's the biggest worry.
yeah.
Bond is slowly not becoming Bond.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the movie looks really good. The trailer was kick-ass. And
It's going to have the stunts because
Yeah.
it has to have the stunts
It kinda
because the
has to.
competition has
Yeah.
the stunts.
And like Cary Fukunaga is a really interesting choice, and he is a really good director. And yeah,
Look,
so
is Daniel Craig prepared to scale a tower without a harness?
but that's another thing is the actor doesn't have to do the stunts. Bond
Yeah.
actors haven't always done their own stunts.
I'm just messing. I'm just trolling.
yeah,
don't
no.
worry.
Tom Cruise does add another layer of like holy shit.
That helicopter scene, oh my God.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't derail things like that.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like the stunts still have to be there. The stunt men can do it,
yeah, that's right.
and I
Like
think
that, I mean,
Sometimes you need a Cliff Booth.
the stunt. Yeah, exactly. Like the stunt men should be. There's always been that argument of like stunt men should get an Oscar category and stuff.
Yeah.
Fucking earth, they should.
It's a dangerous job.
Yeah, especially in
look-
today's age where everything's CGI and you don't even need stuntmen anymore.
well, we saw in this trailer, we saw that motorbike.
yeah, like
like,
that
That
guy.
was incredible. Yeah.
Like
That-
that guy. Yeah, Tom Cruise. You can jerk him off all day. That guy on the bike.
He's doing the same shit.
Shake his hand.
Yeah, that's it.
You know? So
Like-
that's what Bond's all about. It's
Things-
like crazy.
Like we talk about it, but things go wrong. That stunt actor could have died
Oh yeah.
if the motorbike had hit the wall.
Stunt actors have died.
Yeah.
In the last few years. I think Deadpool 2 a lady died.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple people. I
Yeah.
think.
And like we said, like Daniel Craig injured himself and Tom Cruise injured himself. How many stuntmen have injured himself? But that didn't make the news.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Well, the Maze Runner movies, the lead actor nearly died in
Yeah,
a stunt.
that was shocking. Yeah.
So it happens. But we do still need the stunts, as dangerous as they are.
But exactly, and that's why it's like we were saying with Knives Out. It's like movie magic. That's what makes it special. That's why Nolan's movies are cut above the rest, It's because you do crazy things on
You
screen.
strap an IMAX camera to a fucking plane.
Exactly. How many times have we mentioned that? It's like it's fucking
never
amazing.
not impressive.
It's always impressive.
It's because it's a great example. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. And so Bond movies have to be at that standard all the time. And that's another reason why I'm actually okay when they only do a Bond movie every once in a while. Because it's been a long time since the last one. And in a way, that's disappointing. But on the other hand, it's like, I'm okay with that.
It
Otherwise,
also doesn't wear people out.
Exactly.
It's not like superhero
You don't
movies
get a
where you get that
franchise.
fatigue.
You don't get a fatigue. And it's like more special. And when it does come out, it has to be,
It has to be special.
you know,
Big.
fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be great.
But yeah, I think it'll be good. But I'm just worried about the story and the characters. And
I'm worried.
That's the only worry I have.
I'm worried too. But at the end of the day, we still have our Blu-rays.
Also-
we can still go back and
I still
rewatch the
rewatch.
classics.
Yeah. But I think Rami Malek will do a really good job as the villain. I was a bit worried when they cast him that he was just going to play like a hacker guy, like Mr. Robot. But it looks like he's more of a creepy,
A cultish type.
traditional
Yeah.
Bond villain. So yeah, I hope he gets to do something a bit weird and different. I was surprised to see Christoph Waltz back as Blofeld because I was so disappointed in Spectre, and I was kind of like they should just ignore all that and Blofeld should just be gone. And then I heard that Christoph Waltz wasn't interested in returning. I was like, perfect, they don't have to deal with all that shit, because I knew they were going to pull this like on Her Majesty's Secret Service bullshit where they're like, you know, Bond's retired with his new girlfriend and then Blofeld comes back for revenge and kills her, and then it's going to be a retread kind of thing. But the trailer, I was like, what's it doing there? Like, you know, Blofeld's still in prison, so maybe Christoph Waltz in this movie will just stay in the prison, and then maybe they're just teasing it out for the next few movies. And like I said, because it all takes place in that same timeline, if a new actor does take over from Daniel Craig, whether it's Christoph Waltz or not, they could get Blofeld to escape at some point. And so, you know, like I said, it takes place in that same timeline. It's just the events are a bit moved up, or, you know, so that could work. But yeah, like I said, I'm worried about the story, and I'm worried about how, you know, they keep talking about Lea Seydoux' character. She's actually, you know, what, you betrayed me or some shit. And I'm like, God.
They could do some interesting Silence of the Lambs type stuff with Blofeld, potentially. Like,
If Spectre, if Spectre was better, like that would be interesting. But if Bond going to him for advice, that'll suck. If he goes, if Rami Malek's character is like part of Spectre, and then he goes to Blofeld and is like, you know, you need to tell me all the Spectre secrets, and that'll be interesting. But because Spectre wasn't that good, you know, I hope they. That's the other thing is. Spectre, the organisation, is such an important part of Bond, and they tried to awkwardly shoehorn it in to the movie. And so I hope in the future of the Bond movies, you know, I'd be happy for Spectre to be a part of it. I'd be happy for Blofeld to be a part of it. But they need to get their head out of their ass and also just be like...
Going back to basics doesn't necessarily mean going back to the same story beats as the first ones. Yeah. In relation to Spectre being the overarching... nemesis behind everything.
Like, I know Mission Impossible has that quote-unquote problem of, like, every movie he goes rogue, but what was Fallout about? It was about the bad guy infiltrated the organization.
The IMF, yeah.
Yeah. And then he was going to destroy the world with nuclear weapons or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, just do that.
That's standard Bond recipe.
Yeah,
That's
ticking time bomb classic.
Default problems. They're not always a bad thing.
Yeah. Cliches.
It's in execution.
It's like, look at fantasy movies. How many fantasy movies have the Dark Lord?
Yeah.
It's
the Holy Grail, the crystal. Yeah.
It's not because
we have to get the crystal from the evil wizard.
Cliches are not always a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not because it's like a really great idea that has nothing that can be better than it. It's because it's a good story foible. It works. It gets people from A to B.
Yeah, and it's how you execute that idea. If you do the paint by numbers, you know, and then he goes there, and then that's boring. But if it's really
go back to the Doomsday Device, but maybe don't make James Bond Japanese.
Oh, Yeah.
I love you, Sean Connery.
I love
but...
that. I love that bit in the movie where they do and then it's like, where did Sean Connery go? Who is this Japanese man?
What are you talking? What?
Oh man, you have to watch all the Bond films, Callum. You'll get a kick.
The Sean Connery movies are probably the best Bond films, yeah. But there's a point in one of the movies where he turns Japanese.
Oh, they're problematic. We've
problematic.
talked about this. Where if Bond is too problematic for 2019, they should just end it.
Yeah.
Don't try to change him.
Yeah,
you know?
like Sean Connery is a problematic Bond. He's still the best Bond for me.
Yeah.
But they are problematic.
Oh, they're all problematic until they're all problematic. Even the new ones. But this is what I always come back to. I'm not trying to defend Bond as a person. He's a terrible person.
Yeah.
He's an arsehole. He's a cold, misogynistic
chauvinist, yeah.
Always has
dinosaur.
been, yeah.
Yeah. But if you need to change that, if you need to make him have a family, a diverse family of different, female characters and different people of color, it's like, well, yeah, that's fine, but also...
Like, look, yeah, there have been movies that you can argue have glorified Bond in that way, or have made light of certain aspects of that chauvinistic attitude. But you can still do that today without glorifying
That's the thing.
Can I just say,
I think...
I wouldn't mind if there was a Bond movie where he wasn't a chauvinist, he was just a cold-blooded killer. If they were like, we have an MI6 agent who's Bond, and they had an
But I think that's part of the character though.
Yeah.
Like he's a
sexist.
But like, he's a sexist. He's an asshole.
He's a pig.
But you could get rid of it if it was just like a really intense action
But
film.
I think like just because I like watching Bond films doesn't mean I agree with him or his life.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, it's all about the filmmaking. You can make that today. You can make him a sexist. You can make it a chauvinist. It's all about how you're framing it.
Exactly. It'd be more interesting to make a Bond movie where he is a cold-blooded murderer and a chauvinistic pig.
But you can also show how empty that is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how he has to be that to remain
survive,
isolated.
yeah.
He remains isolated. And
it's like, why is he like that?
They could even explore that when he gets his new girlfriend. I can't even remember what her name is, and it's like he's not built for that life.
Yeah, there's a Tom Cruise movie called Jack Reacher, and I can't remember if it was the sequel or not. But no. Let me, and the movie is essentially about Jack Reacher coming to terms with the fact that...
Oh, Nathan was telling me about the second ones, like where he thinks he has a daughter.
Yeah, and then he has to come to terms with the fact that he doesn't have any loved ones.
That's more...
He spent his whole life being a killer, and now when he's in his middle age, he has nothing.
That's more interesting than just turning Bond into a stand-up guy.
But you can frame that through a light of sexism, and it works well.
But if you are going to explore that, don't get bogged down in that. Don't get your head up here. It's still, at the end of the day, it has to be Mission Impossible Fallout, where or it has to be GoldenEye, where you have to fight the bad guy and save the world and get the girl.
But there's a nice middle ground.
Yeah. It all comes down to like the writing and the directing. If you're good at that, you can make a good Bond movie, even when Bond is an objectively arse-holish person.
It also goes back to like that argument that you said. You can start again. They can be rebooted whenever they need to be.
Exactly.
So it's like, even as bad as these movies get, we still have hope for Bond.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a Star Wars situation.
Exactly.
It's like,
because the canon is fluid.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like I said, the reboot is built in.
Yeah.
The recasting is built in. Not just with Bond, but other characters, M and Blofeld. Like, you can just recast Blofeld and have another...
So it's like, as much as they movies, even if in the future they're scraping the bottom of the barrel again, there's still hope, because they still get rebooted and we start again.
Yeah. So
the trailer looks good.
I think it'll be good. Yeah, me too. I have reservations, but I think it'll be really good.
Yeah.
All right.
Moving on to our next trailer, Wonder Woman 1984.
This
again, I feel like I'm gonna have the same problems I had with the first one. Like, it's gonna look nice.
Oh, there's too much CGI in the trailer alone.
The
so
whip,
you can
although the
imagine
whip looks amazing.
Yeah, they're doubling down on the whip. That's pretty cool.
I think the problem is power creep. I'm like, she's way more powerful in the 80s than she is in Justice League, which I understand.
It's because in Justice League, it's like they had to make her super powerful just to keep up with Superman, and then in Wonder Woman the movie, it's like she was in World War One, so she can be super powerful, but really she can't be Superman powerful because otherwise she would just destroy everything. And now this movie, it's like they're kind of, power, like up again. That's not really it.
Look, I mean, I like Patty Jenkins as a director. I think she's the only reason Wonder Woman worked.
Oh, yeah.
Look, you know, I Gal Gadot's a wonderful actress.
But she's not Alicia Vikander.
We talked about this on the Wonder Woman review like 2 years
a while
ago,
yeah.
where I was like, Gal Gadot is good as Wonder Woman because she's naturally charismatic, not because she's the strongest actress.
Yeah, like I think that she's fine. I would prefer a different casting choice.
I'm
but
just saying she's not buff enough.
Yeah, I
We
hate
won't
it
go
when
there.
he talks about that.
We won't go there.
It's so.
we won't go there. Anyway, look, I've defended myself against those accusations. We won't go there.
Yeah.
But it looks okay. I just get a sense of 80s fatigue when I watch the trailer.
I think the problem is like they announced this movie
a while ago,
and then they kept delaying it, and I was kind of like getting a bit hyped for it, and I was like, Wonder Woman, the first one had its problems, but it was pretty good. Had good.
Especially after the shit show that was Justice League.
Exactly. It's like
Release the Snyder cut.
compared to Batman v Superman and Man of Steel and Justice League, like Wonder Woman
really
was
good.
like, and it wasn't until Shazam where I was like blown away. But it still had a lot of problems. Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
But I was like, and they kept talking about it's 1984 and it's going to be like and then they kept talking about like it's going to be like a little soft reboot where it doesn't really take place in the timeline of Justice League, because in the Justice League timeline she had gone into hiding between World War One and when Justice League takes place. So I was like, well, that's good. We don't have to ignore, because I always been saying you need to reboot it and ignore all that shit. So it's like, that's cool. But now that the trailer's out, I think I hyped it up too much. I'm just kind of like, yeah, it'll be all right.
I'm like, hey, I kind of get 80s fatigue.
Yeah,
but also
because the 80s is so hot right now, and every franchise is doing it, every show is doing it.
I hated Cheetah's design.
Was she in the trailer?
No, but they released character posters, and I'm like, they're doing
Can you get it up for me? I haven't seen it. So Kristen Wiig's in the trailer. She plays Cheetah, but she's in a human.
Yeah,
form.
no, that's the design. Everyone's calling that the design. I'm like, don't show me that.
No. Get her up, because
right.
I don't think I understand what you're talking about. Kristen Wiig, the actress who plays Cheetah, is in the trailer as a human, not Cheetah.
Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, in the comics, it's kind of like.
But
depending on the arc.
So what I'm saying is, at some point, does she turn into Cheetah? Because that is not shown in the trailers. That concept art that you saw, I haven't seen.
So it's being billed as first look at Kristen Wiig as Cheetah because she has the yellow eyes. Now, there's no indication of there going
like
to be
fur and stuff.
Yeah, so there's no indication of what Cheetah. Like again, we're so sparse on details.
Yeah,
that I'm hoping that they're going to make it so that's her before.
But
bomb explodes, turns her into Cheetah or
this
whatever.
is actually what I was going to talk about, is I'm actually really worried that even if they do go full Cheetah and she has the hair and the tail, that it's going to be like a cat situation where it's just horrible motion capture, disgusting. Because that's going to happen, right? They can't do a live action Cheetah without ruining it.
Can I just say, what popped into my head just then?
Yeah.
Was the World of Warcraft thing, you think you want it, but you don't?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about comics. I'm like, I'd love to see Cheetah in the legend. And you're like, but what about cats?
Exactly.
I just started laughing.
So, like, if in the final movie Cheetah is just Kristen Wiig with yellow eyes, yes, that'll suck. Yes, that'll
It's better than the alternative.
But is that better than
like,
the weird CGI motion capture
we're
bullshit?
so sparse on details. Like, I want to know, is she
I think
gonna
there'll
have
be a reveal.
claws?
Yeah, I think there'll be a reveal of like she could go.
At least her initial design.
Yeah.
I was like,
I don't think
it might be lame. Just give her a tail and maybe some like claws that come out or something.
They could do like a saber tooth in the first X-Men movie where it's like a bit animalistic.
That's a good result.
Yeah,
but like
that'll probably be the best case scenario.
Because like they're presenting to us, the viewers, as like this is Kristen Wiig as Cheetah. That's what like IGN saying all this other.
I think that's.
I'm like,
I
think it's too early.
I think there will be a reveal in the movie where she fully turns, and it'll be a CGI blob, and I'll hate it.
I do think Pedro Pascal looks pretty cool.
Oh fuck! I'm so excited.
Yeah, I was like. So we'll see. I
watched the trailer, but he just looked like a businessman, right?
Yeah, but he's like slimy businessman with like weird like 80s hair. I love it.
Yeah, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah,
it won't be the best movie of the year.
No,
no, it'll be acceptable.
People will love it and say it's the greatest superhero movie all the time. It'll be fine.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I think
will
it'll be
it beat
fun.
Shazam 2? No.
Even
though that's not coming out
one thing
next
I
year.
say, I hated the Valkyrie design. Wonder Woman's
her
Valkyrie
gold
design.
thing.
Yeah, it's from
Yeah.
the comics. Like, I'm not going to poo-poo that, but I don't like it in the comics.
But this also this again.
No,
I always make the same thing. It's in the technically in the Man of Steel universe. Zack Snyder fucked it up for everyone.
Yeah.
Because now that kind of style is.
No.
not
This is
canon
like
or
it
whatever.
kind of looks real 80s too. Like, it's fine. But
yeah, no, but like I feel like if Man of Steel didn't exist and they made a Wonder Woman movie independent of any other franchise, everything in the movie would look better.
Yeah.
Does
Does
that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, because they wouldn't have that in the back of their mind, even though they're making a standalone, not connected to.
I get you.
Yeah.
I don't like it in the comics. I don't like it in the movie. I just don't like it as a general concept. I was like, especially when you got Thor.
I feel like we talked about this way back, probably on the old show, where I hope after this one they do Wonder Woman present day, and they redesign her suit to be like it is in the comics now with the longer pants.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do like a Winter Soldier, Civil War kind of thing, where it's like more like a
thriller.
action military thriller.
Yeah, that'd
where
be cool.
She's like fighting alongside the military and
Yeah, that'd be a much better film.
yeah. Also, because they're bringing Steve back, and it's like seems to be the real Steve. It's like, but if she lives to be in present day, like he'll age again, unless they're gonna do a thing where he's like a clone who doesn't age or something. I don't know.
That's going to be weird.
Because if they did do a present day one, they'd have to get rid of Steve, but they've already brought him back once, so it's like to get him to if he dies again, I'll be like, come on, you already killed him once, don't do
Magic.
it again. True.
Or they'll just have him be a really old man and they'll be together and everyone will be a little bit grossed out.
I would actually like that. Would be nice. I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with James. People call it weird, but you know what?
Yeah, it'd be kind
Wonder
of nice.
Woman has
Like,
morals. She commits.
She's known that man for 100 years.
Yeah, she commits.
Yeah, and it's like she loves him. It doesn't matter that he's like super
You
old.
put really old, like old age makeup on and make
Okay.
him look really old.
Yeah.
You don't have to. I'm not talking sex scenes.
Like that bit. It's in Civil War, right? Where Captain America goes to see old Peggy Carter, and he's still young, and she's old, and it's like super sweet.
No, we don't have. I'm not talking sex scenes. Like she can she can be sitting by his bed when he's old, holding his hand and then telling him stories.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be a sexual relationship.
No, exactly. It's sweet. Yeah. I think the best thing to happen to Wonder Woman, the movies, is the same thing that happened to the Captain America movies, where the first one wasn't that great, and second one was like almost like a reboot or reinvention, and then the third one continued with that reinvention, but was like a big kind of Avengers 2.5. So I think Wonder Woman 1, it's good, but not great. Wonder Woman 2 doesn't look like Civil War, but Wonder Woman 3 could be the Civil War that reboots. Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier that reboots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they probably... especially me, but we talk about a lot on this show about like wishful thinking. It's like none of this is going to happen. This is how they should do it.
Yeah, they won't.
They won't do it.
And what we'll get is Cheetah being like something out of the new Cats movie.
Exactly, and like
and we'll be like,
yeah, you see in the trailer just all the CGI stuff flying around. And it's like, oh, the ending of this movie is going to have the same problem the ending of the first Wonder Woman did, where it's just grey CGI flying around and really boring and dull and ugly. Fingers crossed, though.
Fingers crossed, but it's going to be gross.
I mean, I hope there's a scene where they're like in an 80s mall, like in because there is the 80s mall in the trailer, like in Stranger Things. But it's like, could you imagine like a good practical action scene where she's like jumping from tier to tier and like sliding down the escalator? And
that's cool.
But they won't do that. They'll just do CGI shit.
Yeah,
most likely. Yeah, the whip looks cool though.
Yeah,
as we said, I'm repeating myself again. That whip looks amazing.
Lots of gauntlet action in the trailer. Like 3 times she reflects bullets with her gauntlet.
All right. Anything else, or should we move on to our last trailer?
I think that's it.
Ghostbusters, the trailer for the new Ghostbusters is out. Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Such a stupid name.
It's a stupid name, but you know what? We haven't had a Ghostbusters movie in 30 years?
Yeah. Hasn't been one in 30 years.
Hasn't been on.
So I'm excited for a new Ghostbusters.
Why didn't they just call it Ghostbusters 3 like Callum suggested the other night?
What's the problem?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's all about, it's like the Ghost protocols, like they're trying to reinvent it for the new modern audience.
I actually liked it. So I went in there thinking I was going to be like, that looks terrible. But, because, my feelings on Ghostbusters dropped dramatically in recent years.
I think
Why though?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why? Nothing bad happened.
I don't- anyway, I was really happy with the trailer.
I think like so when they announced that Jason Reitman was doing it, who's Ivan Reitman's son, who Ivan Reitman directed the two originals. Jason Reitman's also a really good director in his own right, and has made some really like cool like character-driven movies. So I was like, that's interesting, but could it be like a Shane Black situation where it's like, yeah, he had some connection to the franchise, but now he's just going to shit the bed. Yeah, he has to live up to Daddy, but he's going to shit the bed. But the trailer, I think, speaks to the strengths of Jason Reitman's other movies. Like, it seems to be a bit smaller, maybe more interesting characters. A cast looks amazing.
That's all we need, though. Like,
exactly.
yeah, like I don't want like. Granted, I will admit I never actually went out and saw the reboot of Ghostbusters because I stayed the fuck away.
I'm never.
I watched it
pay
on
me
Netflix, and it was not a good time.
But they went big and they went bold.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
No.
Right, I mean the original Ghostbusters. If you look at just the original film, it was never supposed to be. It was funny, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a flat out comedy.
No, it's a comedy, but it's a classic 80s comedy.
And they kind of played straight as well. Yeah, in a way.
Where you've got Bill Murray. Yeah, exactly. This is the other thing. All right, so we could do another 2 hours just on this. You can't remake or reboot Ghostbusters and just be like, we're just going to make a dumb comedy with lots of CGI
like
shit
a Disney
going on.
kind of slapsticky, a bit
Like,
ruder than Disney.
Ghostbusters is not only one of the best comedies of all time, it's one of the best science fiction, horror, fantasy movies of all time, because Dan Aykroyd, who's a huge like conspiracy theorist, UFO, what do you call
Scholarly
it?
gentleman.
Supernatural, believer in the supernatural. He nerded out with that script and like really went to detail in like the technology of the traps and the
even like some of the testing,
and,
like when they're like doing the sort of the mental testing, and like all the university sort of stuff,
and like the ghosts and like the gatekeeper and the keymaster, whatever, like all that stuff. Like it's really fun sci-fi action, fantasy horror. Then you've got the amazing cast,
like the dry, sarcastic,
who play
biting,
off each other so well that you get some of the really funny lines and
like
the really great scenes.
the 10 out of 10 Bill Murray, sarcastic, almost
classic,
nasty sort of humor going on,
like top tier Bill Murray.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't just remake or reboot a movie like that and go like fart out some shitty movie. You have to be like.
But like, what I like about it is they're basically just dudes trying to get by. Yes, they hunt ghosts, but they're not doing it because they have a wacky sense of humor. It's like it's a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I like about it.
There's like a lot of 80s movies that's lost in the reboot version, like the remake, modern day version. You lose that character building over a time where the characters have to struggle and make mistakes and learn. You lose that tangible quality of the technology and learning things and breaking things and making mistakes. And
I'm not sure if it's in the first or the second Ghostbusters, but there's a scene where it's in the hotel and they almost refuse to pay him or pay them the correct amount. And they're just like, all right, we'll let the ghosts out.
Yeah.
It's just like, what do you
like they keep making shit up like it's going to be, And the guy's like, all right.
Yeah.
So we have the reboot of Ghostbusters, and they kind of don't understand the original at all.
It's like a Star Wars situation.
Yeah, and then everyone was like, "It's the greatest movie ever. If you don't like it, you're a neckbeard."
Again,
Last Jedi.
Another Last Jedi, yeah.
And then now we get this one, which is like the appropriate Ghostbusters movie.
And what I like about the Afterlife trailer is, it feels like a great modern day continuation where it's like it's about Egon's granddaughter and grandson as well, I think, like discovering the past,
the legacy.
And I was watching the trailer and I'm like, this is a better Star Wars movie than the Disney Star Wars movies, like
because it seems to understand the source material.
So in the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer, you see like the little girl like going through the barn and finding the car and finding the ghost trap.
And the
like,
uniform.
Yeah, and like finding the uniform.
Like a Jedi robe.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to
and
say.
A lightsaber.
Could you imagine if Force Awakens started and it said, the opening crawl, it said Luke Skywalker has vanished, yada, yada, yada. Then the movie starts and like young Rey Skywalker, her grandfather's missing. She goes on an adventure with her friends. to the Jedi temple that's been abandoned from 1,000,000 years ago to find him. And she opens the thing and you see, oh, there's a lightsaber. Oh, what's that? You know?
Yeah.
It's that classic magical 80s fantasy, which the new movies, all new movies, not just Star Wars, they miss that magic, that Spielberg,
It's like a search
Robert
for
Zemeckis,
yeah.
you know?
It's like a search for knowledge.
Yeah.
A search for the unknown.
all that Stranger Things 80s nostalgia.
Well,
Like, they missed that magic part of it.
one of the things that made me laugh on comments on the Ghostbusters trailer was someone taking the piss out of the Force Awakens trailer.
Yeah.
Was it had the ghosts, the busting. It's true, all of it.
All of it, yeah.
I'm like laughing. I'm like, I would love if that was in the trailer.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, the Afterlife trailer, like, it did that so well.
Yeah.
It's like it captured that 80s magic.
And also, like,
And
the
it's
driving of the car looks really cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it suddenly attacks the reboot, the remake.
Oh yeah, there
where
hasn't
it's
been
like,
a ghost.
there hasn't been a ghost sighting in 30
Yeah.
years.
'Cause
Wink.
yeah, but
Wink,
that also
wink.
doesn't take place in the
Yeah.
continuity. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
So that's exciting.
It actually looks like it recaptures the magic of
I mean,
an 80s, 90s adventure action kind of
Look,
movie.
There's a possibility next year we'll be like, oh, what a shit show! I
Oh,
can't believe
yeah,
it. How
look,
could you do
I'm
this
still
to me?
cautious, you know.
But still, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, and like I said, I like how it's set in like a small town.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of like the 80s nostalgia and the kind of, you know, the
kids
Stranger
and the-
Things.
yeah.
I have been
it's like
seeing-
it feels a bit old, but I'm glad that it's not just
I'm
like
hoping that-
they're in New York or
I'm hoping that Finn Wolfhard isn't being typecast.
Typecast, yeah.
Like, I'm hoping he can kind of find work outside of this niche.
If you go to a small town and you see him, you know some supernatural bad shit's going to happen to get out of there.
Yeah.
you know. So, yeah, but it does have that kind of fatigue of like, they're doing a small town 80s, but also it doesn't feel like they're going too big or broad like the 2016 reboot was. So, yeah, it looks like they'll do a good job. I really like the cast, and so it looks like they'll do a good job with maybe the characters and
Yeah.
you know, kind of
Yeah,
continue. And we didn't see in the trailer, we didn't see any of the cameos from the old cast members who have been confirmed to be in the movie.
Now, this is an interesting one because apparently Bill Murray's been quoted as saying that he'll only return if he can play a ghost.
That was before the 2016 reboot,
Yeah.
which
Well, I
he
mean,
was
we have-
like forced by lawyers to cameo in.
So is he going to be...
So I assume that they convinced, after the reboot was so fucking terrible, like they kind of finally convinced him, just do the movie.
Yeah.
And so because from 2 until the reboot in 2016, he was always talking shit like, I'm not going to come back. Dan Aykroyd kept rewriting scripts and showing it to him and like, please do it, please do it. He's like, no. And then Harold Ramis died, and I was like, well, it's done. They're never going to do it now. And then they rebooted it, and I was like, oh, this feels really wrong. What the fuck are they doing? And then they kind of forced all the old cast members, like, through litigation to, like, do cameos in the reboot.
It feels dirty.
And
just
it was
thinking
so
about it.
dirty. And, you, like, if you've ever seen those, if you look up those interviews with, like, Ernie Hudson
I saw some interviews with Bill Murray, and he just looks so sad.
And you can just see the look on his face. It's just disgusting. And, like... And then finally they're going to do this version, which is like the proper Ghostbusters 3, at least to an extent, because, you know, Harold Ramis isn't here anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think finally they're just like, look, everyone else is coming back. Bill, please just do it. And I think that's why he's doing it. And I hope he's not being a smartass and just being like, I'm going to be a ghost, haha, or it has to take place in my house, like Zombieland. So I hope he's actually, you know, he doesn't have to be a big part of it, but you know what I mean. But also like how they're including Egon, Harold Ramis, by making it his granddaughter discovering.
Yeah, like an homage.
Exactly. It's like it's discovering like him, and because he's the missing cast member, you can have his family be
his stand-in.
Exactly. So yeah, actually, I'm excited. I think it's going to be good. But
I'm
I'm
cautiously optimistic.
Cautious, yeah.
But I can't help feel a bit excited. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, the trailer.
Yeah.
The trailer. I was just like, maybe it's going to be pretty good.
But it's a seed of hope.
Yeah. The little
Little seed of hope that can
little
grow.
kernel, the kernel.
That's it.
Does you want to talk about anything else? I think that's it.
I think
We've
that's
gone
it.
long enough.
Yeah.
We rambled on for a long time.
Pretty good though.
Yeah, I think we did all right. So next week we might not do a new episode. There's no real big movies coming out. There's like Michael Bay movie coming out on Netflix might watch out of curiosity, but we probably won't talk about it. So yeah, Christmas is rapidly approaching. So yeah, we're planning our big Rise of Skywalker review.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's gonna be a task, you know. So yeah, we're kind of maybe gonna take a little bit of a break next week. In saying that, in the next few weeks, I'm gonna re-upload the original Man vs. Movies, the old show. We did all the Star Wars reviews. Most of our listeners have probably heard them. Any new listeners definitely need to listen to it just for context. I'll slowly re-upload those in the next couple of weeks before Rise of Skywalker. And then when Rise of Skywalker comes out, we'll release that review. And so you can listen to our whole Star Wars review saga in order. So technically there won't be any new episodes in the next week, but there'll be listening material uploaded. So we're not going to go silent until next year. We're going to still be active.
A constant flow of content.
Exactly. So yeah, and then after Rise of Skywalker will be the new year, and we'll be back.
New year, new us.
Exactly. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. We hope you stuck around this long throughout all our ramblings.
Look, we'd be rambling to the void anyway.
Oh, true. Yeah. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page if you already haven't. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Tuesday Review AU. Follow me on Instagram at Channel Drifter, where I watch so many movies that I hardly get to talk about on the show. So if you want to keep up with if I've seen the latest movies, you can check my Instagram. You can find our previous episodes on your favorite podcasting app, which you already probably have, but you can find those. And yeah, if you like video games, check out Alan and Jake and Nathan's show, The Sunrise Arcade, where they talk about video games. And Matty J, our friend, has his automotive discussion program, Car Talk, TORQUE. Be sure to check out both of those. You can find those wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Tuesday Review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever it's called, because the more reviews and ratings we get, the higher we go up in the rank, and hopefully it'll get us more exposure and more listeners and more cousins. Yeah.
Definitely need more cousins.
Yeah,
Well, at a certain point, we're all cousins.
Yeah, everyone's a cousin. So yeah, thank you everyone again, and adios, cousins.